Welcome to JDM Living, your home for everything Japanese cars.
We're so glad you're here. Let's get started.
All right, we are live. No countdown, no fake intro voice, and none of that.
Yeah, we're just hitting record and seeing where it goes.
So, what's good, everyone? If this is your first time here, welcome.
Welcome to JDM Living.
This is our YouTube podcast where we talk Japanese cars, car culture, builds, history, everything that comes with it.
Not surface level stuff either. We're getting into the why, not just the specs off Google.
I'm Rez.
And I'm Farah.
And for episode 1, there was no debate about what car we were starting with.
Yeah, this was locked in immediately.
If you click this video, you already know why.
Nobody accidentally clicks an R34 episode.
You saw the title, saw the thumbnail, and said, all right, I'm sitting down for this one.
Which already tells you everything about this car.
Today, we're talking about the Nissan Skyline GT-R R34, and not in a documentary way.
Yeah, this isn't a Wikipedia read-through.
This is why this car still lives in people's heads 25 years later.
Here's what I think is wild. The R34 gets talked about like Nissan planned to make an icon.
They absolutely didn't.
They were just doing Nissan things, motorsport first.
The GT-R badge was never about luxury, never about status.
It was about winning, period.
The R32 showed up and basically violated touring car racing.
To the point where people were mad.
Rules got changed, series got ruined.
Then Nissan drops the R33, more refined, more stable, Nürburgring record holder.
And people complained it was too big.
Which is crazy because it was still destroying stuff.
But Nissan listened, and that's important.
They shortened the wheelbase for the R34.
Stiffer chassis, sharper steering, tighter suspension geometry.
You can feel that mindset shift.
This car feels intentional, focused. Alright, so when people talk about the R34 GT-R's design, they usually jump straight to iconic or legendary. But honestly, the cool part isn't how it looks, it's why it looks that way. This car is basically a rolling engineering decision.
Yeah, the R34 isn't trying to be sexy, it's trying to be effective. Nissan's design brief was pretty much make it stable at high speed, keep everything cool, and don't mess it up with unnecessary stuff. The shape is just the outcome of that mindset.
Like the front end, that bumper looks aggressive, but it's doing real work. You've got dedicated airflow channels feeding the intercooler, radiator, and front brakes. On a car that's pushing serious boost, managing intake temps isn't optional, it's survival.
And the hood vents are key. People think they're just for looks, but they're extracting hot air out of the engine bay. Hot air builds pressure. Pressure creates lift, and lift is the enemy at speed. So pulling that heat out actually helps with front-end stability.
Exactly. Then you get to the overall body shape, which by modern standards is pretty boxy. But those sharp edges help control airflow. Rounded shapes can create unpredictable turbulence, especially at higher speeds. The R34's lines help the air separate cleanly instead of fighting the body.
The wide fenders are another good example of function driving form. Nissan needed a wider track for more grip, so the body had to accommodate bigger wheels and tires. Instead of hiding it, they leaned into it. That width improves lateral stability and gives the car that planted stance.
And let's be real, that stance isn't just visual. A wider track lowers a car's lateral load transfer during cornering. More grip, more confidence, higher corner speeds. That's math, not styling.
Moving to the rear, the wing is probably the most misunderstood part of the car. It's not there for Instagram. At speed, it produces measurable downforce, which keeps the rear end stable under acceleration and high-speed cornering.
Plus, the rear bumper and diffuser design help manage underbody airflow. Reducing lift was huge because this car was expected to live above 150 miles per hour. At that speed, aerodynamics matter more than horsepower.
Inside the car, the same logic applies. The interior isn't plush, it's optimized. The driver position is low and centered, visibility is excellent, and all the controls are exactly where you expect them to be. No wasted motion.
And that multifunction display, that was next level. You're getting boost pressure, oil temp, water temp, throttle position, basically ECU data in real time. Today, that's normal, but in the late 90s, that was borderline race car tech.
What I love is that Nissan trusted the driver. They didn't hide the data or dumb it down. They assumed if you bought this car, you'd actually use that information to drive better.
Which kind of sums up the whole design philosophy. The R34 GT-R isn't about impressing people standing still. It's about rewarding you when you're actually driving it hard.
Yeah, it's a design that doesn't care if you get it right away. But once you do, you realize nothing on the car is accidental.
Function over everything. And that's exactly why, decades later, it still holds up. All right, Sarah, this is the moment. If you say R34 to any car person, there's one thing they picture before the body lines, before the taillights, before the Gran Turismo nostalgia: the engine. And the question is, why won't it die?
Because it was never built to be normal. That's the short answer. The longer answer, this engine was over-engineered to a level that borders on absurd. And that's exactly why it's still dominating conversations, dyno sheets, and racetracks decades later.
Let's set the stage. Late 90s Japan. Officially, the engine is rated around 276 horsepower. Officially.
Right, everyone knew it. The manufacturers knew it, enthusiasts knew it, and the RB26 was quietly making more than advertised straight from the factory. That alone tells you something about how conservatively it was tuned.
And that conservative tuning sits on top of an incredibly strong foundation. Cast iron block, thick cylinder walls, forged internals from the factory. This thing was built like it expected abuse, like it assumed someone somewhere was going to turn the boost up and do something irresponsible.
And people absolutely did. What makes the engine legendary isn't just strength, it's headroom. You can double the factory power with stock internals if the tune is right. That's not marketing hype. That's physics, metallurgy, and smart engineering.
Let's talk about airflow, because that's where this engine really flexes. The cylinder head design is phenomenal for its era. Straightforward, efficient ports, a valve train that loves to rev, and twin turbos that spool quickly without choking the top end.
Exactly. The RB26 doesn't fight you when you modify it. It responds. Bigger turbos, it breathes. Higher RPM, it's stable. More boost, the block doesn't flinch. The engine feels like it's saying, is that all you've got?
And then there's balance. Inline-six engines are inherently smooth, but this one takes it further. Minimal vibration at high RPM means less internal stress over time. That smoothness translates directly into longevity.
Which is why you see RB26s with ridiculous mileage or ridiculous power still running strong. Drag cars, time attack monsters, street builds, track weapons. The same core architecture survives all of it.
But here's something people don't talk about enough. The culture around the engine keeps it alive. Aftermarket support is insane. Every weakness has a solution. Oil pump, fixed. Cooling, solved. Head studs, gaskets, ECU solutions, there's an answer for everything.
That's huge. Engines don't live forever just because they're strong. They live forever because people care enough to keep evolving them. The RB26 became a platform, not just a motor.
And let's be honest, there's also the emotional factor. This engine sounds angry, mechanical, purpose-built. You hear it spool, you hear the wastegates chatter, and it doesn't feel digital or filtered.
It feels alive. Modern engines are incredible, but they're efficient, refined, almost polite. The RB26 is raw. It reminds you that power used to come with personality and sometimes a little fear.
So why won't it die?
Because it was built stronger than it needed to be, tuned safer than it had to be, loved harder than almost any engine of its era, and because every generation of enthusiasts rediscovers it and says, let's see how far it can go.
And the answer is always the same: further than anyone expected.
Exactly. This engine isn't just surviving, it's refusing to be forgotten.
And honestly, it doesn't sound like it's done yet. All right, Sarah, this is the part where the R34 stops being that cool Fast and Furious car and starts becoming a problem for supercars.
A menace, honestly, because once you get into all-wheel drive, handling, and the way this thing put expensive exotics on notice, it's like Nissan built a cheat code and then pretended it was just a normal production car.
Exactly. People talk about the R34 like it's just power. Like, oh yeah, twin turbo, 276 horsepower. But the truth is, the R34 didn't embarrass supercars because it had the most horsepower.
It embarrassed them because it could use its horsepower all the time. In the rain, in the cold, mid-corner, imperfect road, sketchy surface, where a lot of high-end cars suddenly get very humble.
So let's talk about the heart of the unfairness, Atessa ETS Pro.
Which, for anyone listening, is Nissan's all-wheel drive system. Except it's not like your typical full-time all-wheel drive SUV system. The R34 is basically rear-wheel drive most of the time.
That's the key. Under normal cruising, the car behaves like a rear-drive performance car. Light, agile, playful. But the moment trashing gets questionable, or the moment you demand acceleration, Atessa starts shifting torque forward.
And it's doing that based on sensor data. Wheel speed sensors, throttle position, steering input, yaw rate. It's watching what the car is doing and deciding how to keep it fast and stable.
And here's what made the R34's version special. The Pro part, which adds active rear differential control. The R34 V-Spec models had an even sharper setup, so it's not just deciding front versus rear torque, it's also managing how left to right behavior in the rear.
So you're not just preventing wheel spin, you're shaping the car's attitude in a corner. It's basically managing how the car rotates, how it pivots.
Which is wild for the era, because a lot of supercars at the time were like, here's the engine, here's the rear wheels, good luck.
Hope you've got talent and good tires. Meanwhile, the R34 is like, I got you.
Let's paint a picture. You're in an early 2000s supercar. Big power, rear-wheel drive, no modern stability control magic, stiff chassis, but maybe not the most forgiving.
And you come into a corner a little hot. Mid-corner, you hit a bump, or there's a patch of dust, or it's slightly down.
That's where cars get scary, not because they're slow, but because they get unpredictable. And unpredictability forces you to hesitate.
And hesitation is what kills lap times. The R34's handling advantage was that it gave drivers confidence. It didn't feel like it wanted to punish you for pushing.
The chassis balance is huge too. The R34 has that classic Skyline formula. Strong platform, rigid feel, and suspension geometry that's happy being loaded up in corners.
And because the all-wheel drive system is helping you, you can get on throttle earlier. That's the big secret. A lot of fast cars look impressive on a straight, but time is won and lost in the transition, braking, turning, and exiting.
The R34 exits corners like it's being pulled forward by a winch.
Yes, it feels like it's clawing its way out. You point it, commit, and it goes. And when you compare that to a high-powered rear-wheel drive supercar trying not to light up the tires, it's not even the same kind of speed.
Let's be honest, most people don't drive on racetracks.
Exactly. Most people drive on roads with imperfections, cracks, potholes, uneven surfaces, changing temperatures, random rain.
And the R34 is one of those cars that gets even more impressive the worse the conditions are.
That's why it embarrassed supercars, because supercars are often designed for the ideal scenario. Warm tires, clean pavement, predictable grip.
The R34 is designed for winning, period. It's a car engineered with a what if things aren't perfect mindset.
So if you're on a mountain road and you've got tight corners, weird camber changes, and the surface isn't perfect, the R34 feels like it's in its natural habitat.
And it doesn't just keep up, it starts hunting.
Here's the moment where supercars start losing the argument. Corner exit.
Yep, because if you can get on throttle earlier, you're accelerating for longer.
Exactly. Let's say two cars enter a corner at the same speed. One is rear-wheel drive with lots of power, and it has to wait and wait before going full throttle.
And the R34, it can start feeding in power sooner because the system is actively managing traction.
And that means by the time the supercar finally hooks up, the R34 already has momentum. It's already launched out of the corner like a missile.
And that's how you embarrass something with a more expensive badge, not by having more peak power, but by being faster between corners.
And this is why the R34's reputation became so dangerous, because you'd have cars that were supposed to be untouchable, cars with exotic names, exotic prices.
And they'd get walked by a Nissan that on paper wasn't even that powerful.
But the R34 was engineered like a machine that wanted to win. It wasn't built to be delicate, it was built to be effective.
That's the key difference. Some supercars are like art pieces. The R34 is like a weapon.
And it didn't just beat them in a straight line. It beat them where it hurts, in real-world speed, in repeatability, in confidence, in I can do this run again and again without it trying to kill me.
The craziest part is how modern it feels conceptually.
100%. The R34 was doing smart performance before the industry fully embraced it. Today, we're used to torque vectoring, electronic diffs, active systems.
But back then, the idea that a car could think while driving was still kind of rare outside of top-tier engineering circles.
And Nissan gave that to people in a car that, again, was a Skyline, a car that looked like a serious coupe, but not some spaceship exotic.
Which made it even more humiliating, because you're in some exotic thing with doors that weigh as much as a refrigerator, and the R34 is just there, calm, stable, planted, and then gone.
And I want to add something important. The R34 doesn't feel sterile.
Yes, great point.
Some all-wheel drive cars can feel numb, like they just erase drama. But the R34 still feels like it has personality. It rotates, it communicates. It's not just point and shoot.
It's like it gives you the sensation of control without punishing you for making the wrong move.
Exactly. It's forgiving, but not boring. That's rare.
So if we had to sum it up, the R34 embarrassed supercars because it wasn't trying to win a horsepower contest.
It was trying to win the whole situation.
Grip, stability, traction, confidence, repeatability, things that matter in the real world.
And that's why it became legendary, not because it was flashy, but because it was effective. It made speed feel accessible.
And for supercars, that's the worst kind of competition, because you can't flex your price tag when the other car is already disappearing around the next corner.
Exactly. The R34 didn't just keep up with the elite. It made them look fragile.
And that's why people still talk about it like it's mythical.
Because in a lot of ways, it kind of was.
All right, so we've talked performance, we've talked engineering, we've talked the aura, but now we've got to talk about the part that hurts, like genuinely hurts in the chest a little.
Yeah, this is the part where every car fan suddenly gets quiet and stares into the middle distance like they're remembering an ex.
Because this is where the R34 stops being a car and becomes a cultural artifact, a financial asset, a trophy, a myth that got priced out of real life.
And what makes it worse is the R34 didn't start as a mythical unicorn. It was just Nissan's next step, a continuation, a final evolution. It was built to be driven hard, modified, raced, tuned, dailied, whatever. It was a tool for speed.
Exactly. It wasn't born to be locked in a climate-controlled garage under a silk cover like it's royalty, but that's what happened.
Let's just say it out loud. The R34's value is insane now.
It's not even expensive. It's unreal. Like the price doesn't feel connected to the physical object anymore.
Right, because you're not paying for metal and engineering and parts. You're paying for a moment in history. You're paying for the last era where cars felt raw, but still smart. You're paying for the poster on your wall. And the thing is, people don't just want an R34. They want the perfect R34. They want the V-Spec, they want the NER, they want the color, they want the mileage low enough that it's basically still a time capsule.
And once that mindset takes over, it stops being about driving. It becomes about collecting, like sneakers, like watches.
And that's where it gets complicated, because the R34 is one of the few cars that can be both a genuine engineering masterpiece and a hype object.
But the hype has consequences, because now the people who would have actually driven it, the people who would have built it, lived in it, made memories in it, are standing outside looking through the glass.
This is why it stings. Because the R34 feels like it was supposed to be ours.
Yeah, it's the car that made an entire generation care about Japanese performance. It's the car that made people learn what a turbo is, what all-wheel drive does, what tuning even means.
It wasn't some unattainable European fantasy. It felt like, if I work hard, if I build something, if I get lucky, maybe one day.
And now it's like, no, not maybe one day. It's maybe if you're already rich.
And even if you can buy one now, there's this weird guilt that comes with it. Like you're not allowed to enjoy it properly.
Because if you drive it, you're putting miles on it. If you modify it, people call it ruins. If you track it, people act like you committed a crime, like it's done yet.
R34 is one of the only cars where the world will simultaneously say, this car is legendary because it's a driver's car. And then the moment you drive it hard, they're like, no, not like that.
That contradiction is brutal.
Let's talk legacy for a second. Because the R34 didn't just age well, it became bigger than time.
It's one of those cars where the legacy isn't only built by the manufacturer. The legacy is built by the culture.
Exactly. Nissan created the foundation, but the world turned it into a symbol.
And the R34's legacy sits in this perfect storm. It came out at the end of the 90s, when cars were still mechanical enough to feel alive, but modern enough to feel advanced. It had that RB26, an engine that became a religion. It had all-wheel drive that felt like cheat codes. It had a chassis that begged to be pushed.
And it looked right. That matters. The proportions are perfect. The stance is aggressive but not cartoonish. It's angular without being messy. It's like Nissan designed it with a ruler and pure intent.
And then, boom, movies, games, tuning culture, internet forums, street racing mythology. It became the centerpiece of an entire era.
And because it's tied to that era, it's tied to a feeling that doesn't exist anymore.
That's the key. The R34 isn't just rare, it represents something we lost.
The R34 is also one of the last cars people point to and go, that was the end of something.
Yeah. The end of the Skyline GT-R lineage as we knew it, the end of the RB era, the end of that analog meets digital balance, the end of the idea that you could buy a car that felt like a weapon and still be able to understand it with your hand.
Cars today are faster, way faster, but they're faster in a different way.
They're fast like a smartphone is fast.
Exactly. Efficient, optimized, calculated. The R34 is fast like a fist fight.
And that's why people still obsess over it. It's not just speed, it's personality.
Now, this is where the R34 gets messy, the modding debate. Because half the world wants it bone stock forever, preserved like a museum piece. And the other half says, are you kidding? This car was born to be built.
I'm kind of in the middle. Like, I understand the collector mindset because we've lost so many of them. Accidents, rust, bad builds, theft, track damage. There aren't infinite clean R34s left.
But I also think the R34's soul is in the tuning. The whole identity of the GT-R is it's overbuilt, and it's waiting for you to unlock it.
Exactly. It's like Nissan handed you a sword wasn't sharpened all the way because they knew you'd take it to someone who could.
And the sad part is, the prices have made people scared to do what made the car legendary in the first place.
Which is driving it hard, building it, pushing it, breaking it, fixing it, living with it.
So when we say why it still hurts, it's because the R34 is a reminder.
A reminder of what cars used to be, and a reminder of how fast the world can take something from reachable to untouchable.
And it's also the reminder that some legends don't feel good to look at anymore.
Because now it's not just, I want one. It's, I wanted one when it was possible.
And now you're watching them become investments, watching them disappear into collections, watching them get shipped around like art.
And you're thinking, man, these things were meant to be heard. The turbo spool, the wastegate, the mechanical whine, the tires fighting for grip. The R34 is a time machine. It takes you back to a world where performance felt rebellious, where the internet was forums and blurry photos, where you learned about cars through obsession.
And that's why the value keeps climbing, because it's not just the car appreciating, it's the memory appreciating. But the pain is the more valuable it becomes, the less it gets used for what it was built for. So the legacy is secure. The legend is permanent.
But the experience, the everyday reality of it,
That's the part slipping away.
and that's why it still hurts. Because we didn't just lose a car. We lost an era.
If you made it this far, you're our people. This is JDM Living, Episode 1. Drop a comment. Tell us what car you want next, because we're just getting started.